That's as far as I can go with the white petals today, the white blossoms. And now I'm going to do the pink, which I've mixed a bit of the Lumiere Fuchsia pink with white because it was a bit too intense, too deep. And another thing I just wanted to mention is that while I'm painting the blossoms, I'm just using paint. I didn't add much oil, unlike yesterday when I started the background and the sky and the trees. I was using a lot of oil because I wanted the paint to flow nicely and I wanted the painting to be quite wet. But now that it's time to add the blossoms, it's easier to do it with quite a dry brush, so in order not to make a big mess and have the paint dripping all over. So now you can see these trees are all intertwined, so now it's a difficult part working out what goes where. So I'll just start down here with some blossoms that have fallen. And I'll work my way up, see if I can do any on the lower branches today. Might do one hanging there. I like these thin branches most. So please tell me in the comments what you think of this painting. Would you do this kind of a cherry tree? Has anyone else tried a cherry tree like this? There's so many different ways one can approach a painting. I added the pink blossoms and they were just too pale, so I added more pink. I decided they needed to be a bit darker, otherwise they just won't be visible against this, against the tree branches and the blue sky. And I'm now just adding them randomly at the top. I can't do that tree, it's too close to I can't do the lower branches, it's too close to the white. And so I decided to just go for the top branches and just to do them randomly, not too carefully, not, just putting little marks here and there all over and filling up the tree. These are distant blossoms. You see them in detail. And here I do want more of the tree covered, although I still want the blue peeking through. I carried on with pink and I managed to add quite a bit without smudging the branches, so I'm going to just continue. And then when I had finished the section I took a dry filbert brush and I just slightly brushed it all over to get rid of any blobs that were sticking up, because when you varnish it you can't have blobs of paint sticking up. It needs to be all nice and smooth. So now I'm going to keep that brush. I'm not cleaning it off with linseed oil, I'm just wiping it off with a paper towel. And I'll keep that brush just to wipe off, smudge off the edges, and I'll use it for the white as well. Now, I have to be very careful how I do the bottom ones, because these white flowers, I want the petals to stay separate as they are. Here, they can be blurred because they're in the distance, so that's fine. You do want a bit of depth and a bit of volume. Definitely have too much paint on them at the moment. And now those are the white branches coming through there. So here's some of the pink. Need to go back and do the white. And then when it seems that I've completed the white, then I'll come back and see if there's any pink that needs to be done. Here this branch got a bit smudged, so I'll just cover it with pink. And I think it's going to look quite lovely in the end. Painting dried a bit during the night, and so it was easier to brush off the excess paint this morning. I can see there's a lump still there. But after a while the brush starts to become sticky, and then I need to replace it and get another brush. I'm now going to add another layer. Firstly, because there needs to be more pink. There's still a lot of sky showing. And so but the second layer is going to be pink and white mixed together, because that's going to just give the highlights of the sun glinting on the blossoms. And this tree needs a few more branches hanging down here, because some of the branches went up into the pink and kind of blended with the pink, and I just lost track of them. And some of them actually crossed over, like there, I think that one crossed over. But then I didn't see, even if I just put the pink on here, it still went over onto that one. So it gets a bit difficult when it's this, size and scale. It's like pink here, but it's the red shining through the blue. The blue was clearly quite translucent, and or the red is just so powerful that it just came through. I've added more blossoms to the second tree, and I went over all of those that I could see on that tree. I think there's still room for another layer, I don't know, but still a lot of the pink showing through, but I think it's pretty. I mean, just, the sky is mixed blue and pink. And because it's, I'm not using a reference photo, I can add in petals and stalks and trees and branches wherever I want. And that's the beauty of it. So the tree is just the scaffolding, but it doesn't have to be precise, because you're going to change it as much as you want. You're going to cover it as much as you want. In fact, you can see I haven't left a lot of the actual tree branches showing, although they do seem to show more under the pink than under the white, if I'm seeing things correctly. But anyway, I'm going to do another layer now, so I'll start at the top where the sun is more likely to hit. And I won't go over every petal, or even every branch, but just enough to soften the pink a bit and give that look of the sun shining on it. And the reason it works so well doing it in layers like this, because the paint underneath is dry enough that it's not going to smudge. And also I'm not using oil in my paint, I'm just using it very dry. The white seems to be oilier than the pink, and on its own, and just naturally as it comes out of the tube, the titanium white. I added another layer of colour all around, more white, more pink, more of the dark pink underneath the lighter pink, and more petals down here. And I made this tree a bit fuller. Well, I made all of them fuller. And now with the fan brush and some sap green, and I'll alternate with some emerald green and sap green mixed with white and emerald green mixed with white. I'm just going to make little marks of grass all over the place. So some can be shorter, some can be longer. Down here. Drag it down a bit. Some over the foot of the trees. And this all just adds to the overall look of the painting. I think there's a lovely contrast between the white and the pink, and you always need contrast. The white and the pink together enhance each other, like it's a synergistic effect almost, like they. If you just had a whole farm full of pink trees, it would look beautiful, but not as beautiful as the contrast between the one setting off the other, with their complete different colours. So now with a little of the sap green, I'm going to just add a few little bits of green, because you don't normally see much green in the cherry blossom stage. These bits of green are visible. Those bits might be there, but I don't want to add too much. With some magenta on a small round brush, I'm coming back and adding in the centres, the stamens. So first I'll use magenta and then a little yellow. You can see I've done those. And again, I'm only really doing them on where it looks like there's a big flower or a big bloom, blossom. I'm not going to do it everywhere, because many of the blossoms will be turned and you won't see inside them. But it does make a difference, just again adding that little bit of contrast. I think that already makes a difference, just those few that I've done. I've added the magenta centres, and sometimes the paint just sort of smudged a bit too much. But I'll go over that now with little touches of this yellow, cadmium yellow, and that should create the illusion of a stamen in the center. Now for some people this sort of level of detail might just be too much, and I understand that. But for me, the detail is everything, because I'm visually impaired. I just love the detail, even though I know I'm not going to see it once it's on the wall, if it's on my wall. But hopefully other people would be able to see it. I don't want this to look like a photograph. I don't want it to be so bland and so perfect that it's a photograph. But I do want it to closely resemble a cherry blossom orchard. And to have something that will enhance someone's home or their room. And now you can also see why it was necessary to do the sky first. Imagine if I'd lay down the background in red and then try to paint the blossoms over it. Well, you wouldn't have seen the pink on the red. But then to try and add the sky in between these blossoms would be literally impossible. So I would never do it that way. There are an artist who paints all his trees that way. And he mainly paints forests and adds the sky bits in after he's added all the leaves. And I just find that it would just be too difficult for me. And I don't know if it would. Well, I had to stop adding the yellow because I really got to the point where I couldn't see what I was doing. I had no idea. So I'm going to just add a few little yellow daffodils just to complete the painting. And while I'm painting over the wet grass, so I'm not sure the yellow is going to be the exact shade that I want it to be. It's sort of buttercup yellow. I've added daffodils all over, and I've tried to make them as random as possible so that they won't look like they're growing in straight rows. But now the stems I did with the mixture of the light green, the tone green light, and it was the emerald green and the white mixture. But it's too pale. I want them to be darker. So I'm using my darkest green. I think I will pick up the canvas to do the rest. That's my painting completed, and I really enjoyed painting it. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I was able to show. Thank you for watching, and please like and comment if you haven't already, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you in my next painting, and I will leave a photo which I will take tomorrow. I'll leave it to dry first and see how it looks in the morning before I decide whether to add anything more. Well, I definitely will have to brush over the blossoms to get rid of any bits of paint that are sticking up. But it shouldn't make too much of a difference. Maybe just give more of a fuller effect. But other than that, it will look pretty much the same. I'll take the photograph tomorrow. Bye for now. There's no direct sunlight in the painting, but the light is coming from the left, and the whole painting is just glowing with the way I painted it. So it shows you that you can achieve a glowing painting without painting in a sun. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe some of you will try painting something similar. Like I said, there are many options, many ways one could do this. I could have, for example, had this white tree going all the way up between the two pink ones. I could have had many more trees if I'd had a bigger canvas, or even if I used a small canvas but just making the tree smaller. But I wanted a bit more detail that was actually visible.